Imagine an animal recognizing the person who saved its life after years of separation. How would that moment unfold? In the heart of the dense jungles of Indonesia, one elephant's encounter with the man who once rescued him would change everything. What happens next will make you happy.
Please, if you can, take a moment to subscribe to my dad's channel. It would mean the world to him. May God bless you and fill your day with joy and peace.
Before we dive into this moving story, take a moment to comment below where you're watching from today. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that will stay with you long after they're told. Dr. Samuel Arjuna is a wildlife veterinarian dedicated to the care of endangered species. In his late 40s, he's known for his skill, his precision, and his calm under pressure. His days are spent in the thick of the Indonesian rainforest, working at a small, remote clinic. The clinic has become his life. But lately, something is missing. He's worn out, burnt out. The work he once loved now feels like a weight. His clinic, once thriving, is barely keeping afloat due to mounting financial issues. The personal toll isn't much better. Dr. Arjuna's partner has left him, and the isolation has only deepened. He wonders if his days as a veterinarian are numbered. He's on the verge of closing his clinic, retreating from the world he once cared for so deeply. The clinic is tucked away in the jungle. Towering trees surround it, their leaves thick with the moisture of the tropical air. The mountains rise high in the distance, fog blanketing their peaks. The landscape is wild and untouched, home to creatures that are increasingly rare. It's a place of beauty, but also of struggle. Dr. Arjuna has spent years here, caring for animals in need, but now the weight of uncertainty presses harder than ever. Then, one morning, as Dr. Arjuna walks through the forest surrounding his clinic, he hears a rustling in the distance. At first, he thinks it's nothing more than a few birds or a small animal. But the sound is too heavy. It's too deliberate. He stops, heart racing. The air feels charged with something. Anticipation? Fear? He doesn't know. And then, through the thick jungle, a figure steps forward. A massive shape, so familiar, yet so unexpected. It's an elephant. But this isn't just any elephant. This is Raja, the very elephant Dr. Arjuna saved 13 years ago. It's just another morning in the rainforest. The air hangs heavy, thick with humidity and the faint buzz of insects. Dr. Arjuna walks through the dense underbrush surrounding his clinic, checking the perimeter of the sanctuary for signs of damage or intruders. He's been doing this for years, almost out of habit now. The clinic is his life, and this routine is something he's never questioned. But today feels different. There's a tension in the air, something he can't quite place. A rustle in the distance stops him mid-step. It's faint at first, just the soft brush of leaves and branches shifting. But then it grows louder. A quickening pace, the unmistakable sound of something large moving through the jungle. At first he assumes it's a wild boar or a tiger. Both are common in the area, and both can be dangerous if startled. Dr. Arjuna's body tenses. His hand instinctively reaches for the tranquilizer dart at his side, his fingers brushing the cold metal as he considers his options. His mind races. Should he prepare for a confrontation? Is it just a passing animal? Or something more dangerous? He moves closer to the noise, each step deliberate and cautious. The underbrush is thick, making it difficult to see. The air feels charged and his breath quickens. The moment he breaks through the dense foliage and gets a clear view of the clearing, his heart nearly stops. There, just ahead, is a massive shape moving through the trees. It's enormous, towering over the underbrush, and for a split second Dr. Arjuna thinks it's a trick of the light, or maybe his mind is playing games with him. But then, the figure emerges fully, and there's no mistaking it. It's an elephant. His first instinct is to step back, to make sure he doesn't startle the creature. But then, the unmistakable weight of recognition settles on him. This isn't just any elephant. Miranda has come to intoxicate him with her beauty, tempted him to fly, and made him feel the pain of being captured. This is a familiar, imposing figure, a creature he never thought he would see again. Dr. Arjuna stands frozen. The elephant, its massive bulk silhouetted against the misty backdrop of the jungle, takes another step forward. The ground trembles under its weight. There is no way to deny it now. This is no ordinary encounter. The air between them feels thick, charged with a strange unspoken energy. Dr. Arjuna's heart pounds in his chest. Is this elephant dangerous? Will it charge? Is it an unfamiliar animal, or is it something more? The tension mounts, as the audience wonders what will happen next. The elephant steps slow as it draws closer. Every muscle in Dr. Arjuna's body is on high alert. His hand is still poised on the tranquilizer gun, ready to act. He knows how to deal with dangerous wildlife, but something about this moment feels different. The elephant comes to a halt. And then, with startling precision, it lifts its head. Its trunk flares out, and for a moment Dr. Arjuna is certain the animal will make an aggressive move. But at the last moment, it unbuttons its hood again, and the lope of its back bends a few inches. But then, something happens that changes everything. The elephant's eyes lock with his. A deep, knowing connection. The massive animal stands still, staring at Dr. Arjuna with an intensity that is almost human. A split second of silence stretches out between them. Dr. Arjuna feels the weight of the gaze, the ancient intelligence in those eyes. This is no wild animal. This is a creature that recognizes him. His breath catches. How is this possible? He hasn't seen this elephant in years. The elephant raises its trunk, and in the stillness of the jungle, it lets out a soft, low rumble. The sound is unmistakable. A greeting. A call that Dr. Arjuna remembers all too well. His pulse quickens, his heart races, and the world around him blurs into a haze of memories and emotions. Raja. The name comes to his mind before he can stop it. It's him, it's Raja, the same elephant Dr. Arjuna had saved 13 years ago. The realization hits him like a wave. His mind floods with the images of that moment, so vivid it's as if it happened yesterday. He can feel the weight of it, the long hours spent by Raja's side, the painstaking effort to keep the young elephant alive. The way Raja had been so frail, so weak, a survivor of a brutal poaching trap, separated from his herd, barely clinging to life. Dr. Arjuna doesn't move. His eyes remain locked on Raja, his breath shallow as the flood of memories washes over him. He hadn't expected this, hadn't even thought about Raja in years, yet here he stands, older and stronger, but still bearing the same wise, knowing eyes that Dr. Arjuna had once gazed into while fighting for Raja's survival. The jungle feels suddenly still, as if even the trees are holding their breath. Raja's massive form towers over Dr. Arjuna, but there is no hostility in the elephant's posture. Instead, there is a quiet recognition, a kind of unspoken understanding that no words could capture. For a long moment, the two of them simply stand there. Dr. Arjuna feels a strange tug in his chest, an emotional knot tightening as the years between them collapse. How did Raja find him? Why has he come here, now, after so much time? Dr. Arjuna feels a strange warmth spread through him. He takes a cautious step forward. His hand falls from the tranquilizer dart, now completely unnecessary. And then, without warning, his mind flashes back to that fateful time, a memory that had been buried for so long. The flashback is sharp and vivid. He remembers the day he found Raja, weak and barely able to stand, the young elephant's body riddled with infections from a poacher's trap. Dr. Arjuna had worked tirelessly, day after day, nursing Raja back to health. His colleague at the time, Dr. Maya, had been there too. The two of them had formed a bond over their shared mission, the quiet respect they held for each other as they battled against time and nature to save Raja's life. But Maya had left the clinic years ago. She had moved on, taking another path, and leaving Dr. Arjuna to face the mounting challenges alone. That loss, too, weighed heavily on him. He couldn't deny that. But Raja, here now, alive and strong, has brought something back into his life that he thought he had lost forever. As the flashback fades, Dr. Arjuna stands once again in the present, staring at Raja, who now takes a few cautious steps closer. The emotional pull is undeniable. What is happening? Why has Raja come back after so long? Dr. Arjuna's thoughts are interrupted as he hears a rustling in the distance, a disturbance that suddenly feels out of place. His eyes dart to the trees, his senses alert once more. Raja's presence here isn't just a reunion. It feels like a warning. Could this be the moment Dr. Arjuna has been waiting for, or is something darker unfolding before his eyes? What is Raja trying to tell him? Dr. Arjuna's heart pounds as he stands face to face with Raja. Every nerve in his body is alert. His mind spins, trying to process what's happening. For a moment, everything around him fades: the towering trees, the sounds of the jungle, the distant cries of birds and monkeys. None of it matters now. Only Raja. The massive elephant's presence looms large, but there's no fear. Instead, a strange calm fills the air. Raja steps forward, moving with a fluidity that belies his size. The ground shakes ever so slightly with each of his movements, but it's not a threatening tremor. Dr. Arjuna stands still, breath caught in his throat. Raja halts in front of him, and for a long moment the two simply stare at each other. Then slowly Raja lowers his head. His trunk stretches toward Dr. Arjuna with an unexpected tenderness. The elephant nudges Arjuna's shoulder, not with the force one would expect from such a massive creature, but with gentle curiosity. It's a gesture that feels almost like a greeting, an unspoken recognition. Dr. Arjuna's heart skips a beat. This isn't possible, he thinks, but it is happening. He can see it in the way Raja moves, the way the elephant pauses just inches from him, waiting. Raja's trunk slides to Dr. Arjuna's face. The touch is soft, deliberate. For a moment, the world stands still. There's no sound. Just the rush of blood in Dr. Arjuna's ears and the deep, soulful gaze of the elephant in front of him. The recognition is clear in Raja's eyes. The bond they shared 13 years ago isn't just a memory. It's alive, pulsing between them now, stronger than ever. Do you feel it? Dr. Arjuna is overcome with emotion. He feels as if the ground beneath him might give way. There's a surge of affection, of disbelief, of gratitude. An overwhelming flood that threatens to drown him. He reaches up instinctively to touch Raja's trunk, his hands trembling. Raja's hands close around his shoulders, and they begin to tremble. Raja, he whispers, though the word feels insignificant in the face of what's unfolding. The elephant holds his gaze, steady and knowing. The connection between them is profound, a bond forged in life or death circumstances. It's a recognition of not just the past, but also the present, a shared moment of survival, of second chances. Just as the emotions settle in, the ground shifts. Dr. Arjuna feels it first, a faint tremor underfoot. He glances around, his senses sharpening. Then, from the shadows of the jungle, more figures emerge. Elephants. One by one, they step into the clearing, their enormous shapes moving with slow, deliberate grace. Dr. Arjuna counts at least 5 others, their dark forms silhouetted against the mist. They move with a quiet unity, surrounding Raja and Dr. Arjuna in a protective circle. It's as if they've been waiting, watching, anticipating this reunion. For a moment it feels as though the jungle itself is alive, as if nature has orchestrated this meeting. The herd stands around them, still and silent. Their eyes, like Raja's, are filled with a deep wisdom, eyes that seem to understand the significance of this moment. Dr. Arjuna feels the weight of their presence. These aren't just any elephants. They are Raja's family, his kin. And now they have gathered around him, as though to witness what he and Dr. Arjuna share. The air feels thick with tension, but there's no hostility, just a quiet, unspoken understanding. One more round of 76 breathing, I thought. Then, one of the elephants lets out a low trumpet, the sound echoing through the trees. It's a soft call, almost mournful, but not without a sense of respect. Dr. Arjuna feels something shift in him. This moment is not just a reunion. It's something far deeper, something he can't yet understand. But it's real, undeniable. Dr. Arjuna blinks, his mind snapping back to the past. The moment before him fades into a flashback. It's a sweltering day, the sun beating down mercilessly on the dry landscape. The air is thick with dust. Dr. Arjuna and a small team of wildlife rangers have been tracking an injured elephant for days. The poacher's trap had nearly killed him. Raja was barely alive when they found him, collapsed in the middle of the savannah. His wounds were horrific. Deep gashes from the steel trap, dehydration from days without water, and the clear signs of a desperate struggle. Dr. Arjuna recalls the difficulty of getting to him. The terrain was rugged, and Raja was agitated, frightened. The poacher's trap had left him broken both physically and emotionally. He remembers the first time he laid eyes on Raja. Fragile, vulnerable, the weight of his injury so severe it was unclear if he would make it through the night. But then there was Inda, the local ranger. Inda had been invaluable. She knew the jungle better than anyone, could track an animal by the slightest signs. Her expertise saved Raja. Together they managed to locate Raja's herd, but they were wary, unsure. Inda had made the decision to track the elephant alone despite the risk. She had a quick mind and an even quicker reflex. "Stay back, doctor," she had said, watching the animal's every move with a calm that belied the chaos around them. "I'll lead him to you." And Inda's ability to calm Raja, to guide him without pushing him into a panic, had been critical. When the team reached him, Dr. Arjuna saw just how close they had come to losing the elephant. His wounds were worse than anticipated. They were running out of time. The operation had been risky. The poacher's trap had left deep, festering wounds. Raja had resisted every touch. But Arjuna and Inda had worked tirelessly, side by side, tending to him with a care that spoke more of compassion than medicine. They managed to get fluids into him through an IV, risking both their safety as the animal's agitation reached a peak. Raja fought them every step of the way. In those moments, Dr. Arjuna had feared for his life, but more than that, he feared losing Raja. His bond with the elephant was instant, a connection that only deepened with each passing hour they spent together. Then, in a moment of sheer will, Dr. Arjuna reached for the elephant's massive, trembling body, whispering softly to him. He worked quickly, knowing that if he didn't act fast, they would lose him. Raja's eyes, filled with pain and fear, locked with his. It was a silent plea. And then, finally, Raja drank, the first sign of life, of hope. The battle wasn't over, but for the first time, Dr. Arjuna felt like they had a chance. The memory fades as Dr. Arjuna's mind returns to the present. He looks at Raja, now standing strong before him, surrounded by his herd. The bond between them is undeniable. But there's something nagging at him, a sense of uncertainty. Raja's eyes, though filled with affection, also carry something else, a warning perhaps. The reunion is emotional, yes, but it's also laced with an undertone Dr. Arjuna can't place. The ground beneath his feet trembles once more. The other elephants shift. They move like shadows in the mist. Something in the air is changing. A new earth will develop. And just as quickly as it had arrived, the moment of peace shatters. "Humph," repeated the woman. A loud crash echoes from the jungle. A branch snaps. Dr. Arjuna turns, his pulse quickening. What is it? The elephants grow restless, their trunks raising as they trumpet in unison. Something was coming. Something he hadn't anticipated. Dr. Arjuna stands frozen as Raja moves ahead of him, guiding him deeper into the jungle. There is a sense of purpose in the way the elephant leads, as if the path is set, as if every step is part of something greater. The herd follows silently, moving in a careful formation, their eyes fixed on Arjuna as though watching his every move. For the first time, Dr. Arjuna feels an overwhelming sense of connection to this moment. A bond that feels more than just gratitude. It feels almost sacred. Raja doesn't just lead, he guides Arjuna through the dense jungle, as though this moment has been planned. The trees part slightly, creating a clear path just for them. The animals in the surrounding jungle seem to sense it too. Everything grows still. It's impossible to ignore the sensation that the herd's appearance here wasn't by chance. The way they move with such intention, the way Raja's posture commands attention, it all points to something larger than a simple reunion. This is a moment of profound meaning. As they walk, the herd doesn't just follow, they close in, surrounding Dr. Arjuna. The sense of space around him tightens, and it's not an uncomfortable feeling. It's as if the elephants are creating a safe, protective circle around him. They don't rush, don't push. They move with quiet purpose, almost as if they're showing Dr. Arjuna something important, something beyond the physical realm. Raja's large frame slows as he nears a small clearing. He pauses for a moment, but it's not to rest. There's something deliberate in the way he halts. His ears flick toward Arjuna, as if inviting him to approach. As the herd lingers in place, one of the younger elephants steps forward. It's smaller than Raja but still large, its eyes bright with curiosity. The elephant moves gracefully, extending its trunk toward Dr. Arjuna. The elephant gently places a small, carved wooden amulet in Dr. Arjuna's hands. There, Dr. Arjuna stares down at the amulet, his breath catching in his chest. The smooth wood feels almost alive in his palms. It's not a simple trinket. It's a symbol, a gesture of gratitude, a link between them. The amulet is something the herd gives to those who have shown an unwavering bond with them, a mark of respect that has been passed down through generations of elephants. For a long moment, Dr. Arjuna just holds it, his mind reeling with the significance of the gift. The elephant who placed it in his hands doesn't move away. It stands, watching him intently, as though waiting for Dr. Arjuna to understand. And then the full weight of the gesture sinks in. This isn't just gratitude for saving a life. This is a sign of something deeper, a recognition of the shared journey between the man and the elephant, a bond that goes beyond rescue. It's a mark of acceptance, as though Dr. Arjuna has been welcomed into their world, into their history. The realization leaves him speechless, overwhelmed. He feels a flood of emotions: gratitude, humility, awe. This amulet is more than a token. It's a bridge between their worlds. As Dr. Arjuna kneels to accept the amulet, the herd moves slowly, as though preparing to leave. But there's a sudden shift in the air, a moment of stillness that grips the scene. Dr. Arjuna's heart skips a beat. For a moment, he questions whether he will ever see Raja again. He's overwhelmed by the magnitude of this moment, unsure of what it means for the future. As he watches the herd, a small doubt begins to creep into his mind. Will this bond hold true? But just as that thought flickers, Raja pauses. The great elephant turns back, his gaze locking with Dr. Arjuna's. For a moment, the world around them fades into silence. Raja lifts his trunk and lets out a soft, rumbling trumpet. The sound is quiet but full of meaning. A low, deep note that lingers in the air, carrying more weight than any spoken word. It's not a sound of departure, it's a sound of acknowledgement, a final gesture that marks the end of this chapter, but also the beginning of something timeless. Dr. Arjuna's eyes fill with tears, and he holds the amulet tightly in his hands. He knows, without a doubt, that this is a bond that will last forever. Raja turns back to the herd and they move off together, vanishing into the jungle. But Dr. Arjuna doesn't feel abandoned. He feels more connected than ever. Dr. Arjuna returns to the clinic, his footsteps slow and measured as he walks through the dense jungle. The weight of the amulet in his hand is grounding, a tangible reminder of the unforgettable encounter. But his mind is elsewhere, lost in the memory of the elephants, especially Raja. The enormity of their bond still lingers. It feels surreal, as though it's all too vast to comprehend. Yet, in his heart, Dr. Arjuna knows that what happened in the jungle was real. It was a message from the elephants, from Raja himself. Back at the clinic, the familiar sights and sounds greet him, the buzzing of insects, the rustling of leaves, the scent of fresh earth. But everything feels different now. It's as though he's stepping into a new chapter of his life, one that was set in motion by the reunion. His eyes move across the small clinic, which has seen better days. The walls are peeling in places and the equipment, though functional, shows signs of wear. Financial strain has been mounting for months, and Dr. Arjuna has been toying with the idea of closing it down. He's come to terms with the idea that his dream might be over. The clinic, once a sanctuary for endangered species, is now just a reminder of all that he's lost, and the mounting weight of responsibility has taken its toll on him. Yet now, in the wake of his encounter with Raja, something shifts within him. He stops in front of his desk, the weight of his decisions heavy on his chest. The future of the clinic, his future, suddenly doesn't seem so clear-cut. For the first time in a long while, he can see a path forward. His sense of purpose is renewed. He can't just walk away, not after everything he's seen. Despite his renewed sense of purpose, the financial difficulties are still very real. Dr. Arjuna knows he can't keep the clinic running at full capacity. He'll have to make tough choices. Perhaps he'll operate on a smaller scale, focusing on the most critical cases. Perhaps he'll partner with local conservation organizations for funding. But he'll do something. The clinic will survive, even if it's in a new form. It's clear now that his work is his life. And it's not just about treating animals anymore. It's about protecting the bond between humans and the wildlife they share the world with. He can't turn his back on the elephants, or the animals that need him. Not after what Raja's herd showed him. They've reminded him that he's part of something much larger than himself. And as he stands there, reflecting on the events that led him back to this place, he realizes that he has a responsibility to carry this legacy forward, to keep the connection alive. That night, Dr. Arjuna sits alone in his small office, the amulet resting on his desk. The quiet hum of the jungle outside is a steady companion, but it's no longer lonely. The stars are bright overhead, a reminder that no matter how small his corner of the world might seem, it's part of something vast, something beautiful. He smiles faintly as he remembers Raja's final trumpet, the sound that seemed to echo through his soul. The weight of the amulet presses on him again, this time in a different way. It's not just a gift, it's a reminder. A reminder that moments like the one he shared with Raja are rare. But they're also a glimpse of something that can be created again. Maybe not with every animal he helps, but with every life he touches. He has the chance to make a difference, not just for the elephants, but for every species that walks the earth. And he knows it now, with absolute certainty. As he sits back in his chair, his thoughts turn to the future. He thinks about the animals that still need help, about the forests that are disappearing, and about the work that needs to be done to ensure that the bond between humans and wildlife is preserved for generations to come. There is no guarantee that he'll succeed, but there is no question that he will try. He makes a vow to himself. He will continue his work. He will dedicate his life to the cause of conservation, even if it means starting small, even if it means sacrificing comfort and security. The next morning, Dr. Arjuna steps outside, the sun shining through the canopy of the rainforest above. He can hear the distant calls of birds, the rustling of leaves, and the sounds of life all around him. The world is alive, and it needs protecting. As he walks through the clinic grounds, he thinks about everything that led him here, the struggles, the doubts, the quiet moments of despair. But now, there's only a quiet resolve. Dr. Arjuna understands, perhaps more than ever, that conservation isn't just about saving species. It's about protecting the interconnectedness of life. He knows that the elephants, like all creatures, are a part of something greater, and so too are we. Humanity has a responsibility to ensure that the fragile balance between humans and the natural world is maintained. This is the message he hopes to impart. This is the legacy that has been handed down to him by Raja, and it's one that he now carries forward. The clinic may be small, his resources may be limited, but his resolve is as strong as it's ever been. And he's not alone in this fight. There are countless people around the world working to protect what's left of the wild, to give animals like Raja a chance to thrive. Dr. Arjuna's journey is far from over, but today he takes the first step toward building a future that honors the elephants, the animals, and the world that sustains them. Dr. Arjuna stands by the window of the clinic, gazing out at the dense rainforest that stretches endlessly before him. The sun is setting, casting a warm orange glow over the trees. The air is thick with the scent of earth and life, the same scent that has been his constant companion for years. But today, it feels different. Today, the jungle is alive with meaning. He thinks about Raja, the elephant who remembered him after all these years. That moment, that connection, it's something he'll carry for the rest of his life. It wasn't just an animal showing gratitude. It was a profound reminder of the ties that bind all living things. The bond between humans and animals is not as distant as we often believe. He lets out a quiet breath, his heart filled with both sadness and hope. The sadness of knowing how fragile life is, how easily we can lose the things we cherish, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, there's still time to make a difference. He doesn't have all the answers, but in this moment, he understands his purpose. It's to protect, to preserve, and to honor the obstacles. It's to protect, to preserve, and to honor the creatures that share this world with us. If you felt the power of this story, if it's moved you the way it moved Dr. Arjuna, consider what you can do to help. The elephants, and so many species, need our help. We all share this planet, and it's our responsibility to protect it. Subscribe for more stories of hope, resilience, and the incredible bond between humans and wildlife. And share this video. Spread the message. Let's keep these remarkable creatures in our hearts and work together to ensure that the legacy of Raja and those like him continues for generations to come.